dolly lovers, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another video. So over the last few months, since I have brought in ball jointed dolls to my doll collection, you guys have shown such the interest in these dolls, and I'm pretty happy about that because I wasn't sure how this channel was gonna go as far as engagement when it comes to bringing in another type of doll. So I'm so glad you guys are enjoying these. Today I have with me my Yoko, and she has on a different wig than her usual. So it's just like a kind of strawberry blonde, peachy toned wig with a bun style, and she has this adorable little dress on that we got from one of our ball jointed doll friends at a recent meetup, and I just think she looks so adorable. And of course I couldn't leave Bash out. He's back there just kind of minding his business today. But I thought since you guys were interested in these dolls that I'd share some tips, kind of like a little starter segment for anybody who's interested in getting into this hobby. First, I want to go over some things that you can expect with ball jointed dolls and getting into this hobby. And I will be reading this, if you see me looking down, I will be reading these tips from my article post, Getting Started in the BJD Hobby. If you haven't checked it out already, my blog full of information for ball jointed doll hobby, reborn doll hobby, and Blythe. You can find this article and many others in the resource section. But I did want to go over some of the things I talked about in that article here in this video in case you hadn't a chance to check this out. So one thing when it comes to ball jointed dolls is that everything is in centimeters. So I highly recommend that you find an online centimeter to inches converter just so you can get an idea of the measurement for things. When you're on the different doll websites, the doll's heights, measurements for clothing, the feet is all in centimeters. And if you're interested in knowing the inch conversion of that, you will need some kind of converter. I will link below the one that I use, or you could just Google it. Google usually has a little quick converter that you can use for that. So know that all measurements and things are in centimeters. The second thing is ball jointed dolls can range anywhere from $100 to $600, and it all depends on the size of the doll, the resin color of the doll, especially if it comes in special fantasy colors like blues, pinks, and purples. It also can depend on the availability of the doll, if it is some sort of limited run. If the doll set comes with extra accessories like heeled feet or a different change of hands. So all those things can factor into the price of a doll. Unlike with reborn dolls, I feel like the price goes up and up just depending on the size. But there can be several factors that go into a price jump for ball jointed dolls, not just based on the size. Another thing to note is that ball jointed dolls do come completely blank and nude. So when you check out a doll company's website, there can be several options that are add-ons for your doll order. However, the basic price that they usually show just includes the full doll, and that's it. It doesn't include a painted on face. It doesn't include eyes, wig, clothing, or any of that. When you're purchasing a doll straight from the company, usually it is a blank and a nude doll, and it is up to the buyer to either purchase add-ons for a face-up and accessories, or to find other services, like from a special face-up artist to do the face, or commission an artist to create clothes if you aren't making the clothes for yourself. One thing to note is that when you receive your doll, I do believe most companies send their dolls completely strung. So if you order a face-up on him or her, you can pretty much play with your doll right away. They're all put together. But I have heard some instances where dolls come not strung, and I do feel like stringing a doll can be a bit of a learning curve, but for the most part, dolls are already put together and can be posed. Sometimes they do come quite loosely strung, and they may need to be restrung, so I definitely seek some how-to videos on stringing particular dolls. Most of the ball jointed doll companies offer some type of guide booklet or have videos posted online on how to string their dolls. Next, one thing that you can think about is the wait time when it comes to purchasing a ball jointed doll. With reborn dolls, I know we're pretty used to the 4 to 6 week wait time, but it's a little bit different with ball jointed dolls. These dolls are made to order and can take anywhere from 2 to 8 months, sometimes longer, depending on the company and how popular they are. It also depends on the weather, because the process it takes to create these dolls it sometimes can depend on the weather. It can't be too humid. So those are all factors in creating your doll that can lengthen the time. But usually on the websites, they have a general time estimated for you, so you know what to expect. When I was expecting Yoko, I think altogether from the time that I ordered to the time that she was on my doorstep, took about 3 months. Now, that is if you're ordering straight from the company, and most ball jointed doll companies are in either South Korea or China, Japan, overseas. If you're in the US, there are US dealers that you can work with and probably save yourself a lot of money on shipping costs if you can order through there, but that'll probably be a topic for another video. And last but not least, I want you guys to be aware that ball jointed dolls can be faked. There are fake ball jointed dolls out there called recasts, and generally they are frowned upon by those who are serious about this hobby. Basically, a recast is an illegal replica of a legit doll. Say, for instance, someone with ill intentions purchased a Lutz Muwa doll like this and went through the process of copying this doll to make more of it and selling it illegally. Most often, recasts are not exactly the same as the original doll, and the quality may not be anywhere near the original as well. It has become quite the problem in this hobby of recasts, and I do warn you from shopping for legit ball jointed dolls on places like AliExpress, Wish, and sometimes eBay can be not safe, especially if the doll is supposedly new from some seller that isn't the original doll company. I would definitely be aware. I know a lot of listings are on AliExpress for ball jointed dolls, but you guys, those dolls are not real, and I've heard some horror stories that people invested the same amount or close to the same amount as a legit doll, and they got something that was nowhere near as good as what they had hoped. So just know that there are fakes out there, and you can only guarantee getting a legit doll if you purchase straight from the company or a US dealer that works with the company. Now, some other tips that I wanted to share with you guys is that I really highly encourage you to do your research. If you're really serious about joining this hobby and you're really interested, or perhaps you've been interested for a long time but you just haven't taken the plunge, I highly recommend that you do your research. I probably have been researching these dolls for 3 or 4 years before I officially pulled the trigger and got my first doll. I did go through a little bit of trial and error by getting burned with a recast doll, or at least the body was a recast. But I learned a lot during those 3 or 4 years before I arrived at my very first doll. So do your research, especially if you find a particular doll that you like. Do the research on the company, on where you can purchase it, the different sculpts, and things of that nature. So the more you know, the better your purchasing experience will be. Second is to learn BJD sizing, and this isn't something you're just going to know overnight. It is going to take some time, but as you look through listings for doll clothing and wigs and get familiar with the measurements of your doll, it'll become easier, I promise. And my last tip is to set a realistic budget. Sometimes our eyes are way bigger than our wallets. So before you even start going on a hunt for a BJD, I highly recommend setting a realistic budget for you that works for you. Not a lot of people want to invest $300, $400, $500 right off the bat for a doll that they may not even be sure that they like this type of doll. So I highly recommend setting a budget and staying within that budget. Now note that your budget may not accommodate the kind of doll that you want. If you're interested in an SD size doll, which are some of the larger dolls like Bash over here, you may not be able to find an SD size doll that's under $100 or under $200 and it's exactly what you want. You may have to compromise a little bit if your budget is smaller. However, if you're pretty set on a certain size or a certain sculpt, resin color, or whatever, know that your budget is going to have to match that. I think a realistic budget for a first time BJD would be around $200 to $250. And I do believe you can get a really good quality doll for that price. If you guys were around when Miyomi was here, Miyomi cost me about $260. She was an MSD size doll, very well made, great poser. She had tan skin, which is often more expensive in other doll brands, and I purchased her in stock from a US seller, so I didn't have to wait 3 or more months for her. I purchased her and she came within a week. And I can highly recommend the Junkie Spot if you live in the US and you're looking for your first BJD. Definitely check out that website. I do believe that the dolls are really good quality and very affordable. So yeah, that is it for this getting started with the BJD hobby. I hope some of these tips and information was helpful to you. If you have any more questions, leave them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to follow up this video with more information for you guys. I'm coming up on 1 year. Well, is it? Yeah, just about 1 year being in this hobby. So my baby Yoko is almost 1 year old. I cannot believe it. I can't believe how much I have learned in this short 1 year span, but I did want to share it with you guys in hopes that it'll make you getting into this hobby a little bit easier for you and you're not scrambling around looking for information. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them or help you look for the right answers for them. I will see you guys in the next video.